do this again. Well, I had a bunch of weird dreams. Don't want to talk about those. But I read a page out of my book for the Daily Law, and it's funny. The page itself is about something I already talked about. It's about concentrated effort. See, this whole early, because it goes by month, 366, it includes a leap year day. But it goes month to month, and it's really the process of going from apprentice to master. It's kind of building up to that. So some of these pages kind of dovetail into the next. But what one page had prodded into my mind, and I talked about on another video, was actually the page today, which makes sense because it's like already, sparking ideas in my brain. So it kind of makes sense that I was in tune with already where it was going. But today was concentrated effort, and the fact that doing things that it's an unavoidable outcome, that if you do something over and over and over again with concentrated effort, that you will get better at whatever the task is. They mentioned that the law of 10,000 hours, which roughly people like to talk about that as it not being an accurate number. And they bring up all kinds of other studies that try to discount it or discredit it. But it's a rough estimate, and it varies for everybody. But there's a general understanding that about 10,000 hours of concentrated effort takes you from apprentice to a proficient level of mastery. And that's about 7 to 10 months, I think it said. So, there's that wiggle room. It depends on the person, depends on their level of processing when it comes to information, and everybody's different, so everybody's going to be on that track a little differently. For some it may be less than 10,000 hours, for some it may be more than 10,000 hours, but on average, the average person goes from being a complete novice to proficient, and maybe even entering into mastery. At least the next step, maybe not mastery, but the next step of creativity when it comes to the task or the chore or the ability that they're trying to nurture. But yeah, I kind of hit that on the mark ahead of my page, because I talked about that concentrated effort. So I think what the idea that sparked in my mind, because I do tend to talk about some of these things in terms of maybe like your occupation or like a skill you're trying to, if you want to be an artist or anything. But I like to apply these thoughts and tips towards the cultivation of a life. Who you are. I think that's important, because if you treat your life and the building up of who you are like that's the task that you're getting paid to do, if you took it that serious, then maybe the outcome would be the same. You'd be the master of yourself, right? Instead of building up all these habits over a lifetime because you were just responding, if you were to actually take the reins and actively take the effort to put in the 10,000 hours of self-mastery, I think that'd be a good thing for everyone. I think the world would only benefit from something like that. So that's what that was about today. Oh man, a little tired. Got plenty of sleep. I don't know why I'm tired. Today I'm with the dogs, so I'm gonna go see what happens there today. And Hopefully everything goes smooth. I think it's supposed to rain today, so everybody stay safe out there. Drive slow. Give everybody plenty of space. Give yourself plenty of time to get where you need to be. And just take it easy today. Take it easy every day. There's no amount of stress or pressure that you could put on yourself that's actually worth it. Stress doesn't help anything. Especially when it comes, if you're going to be concentrating on building skill with a task or an ability. If you're trying to move from apprentice to master, from student to teacher, stress is not going to help that progression. Because stress is another thing your mind's going to have to focus on. You're going to feel yourself getting stressed, and that's going to take away from your ability to focus. And all this life really is about is the quality of your focus, right? Think of it as like a camera lens. Like if you have a bunch of fingerprints, think of the fingerprints on a camera lens. It's gonna degrade the quality of the view that you're trying to record or you're trying to capture. And think of those fingerprints and all the dirt on top of that as the distractions of stress and whatever else, exhaustion, whatever else your mind might be straying away from and diminishing your ability to focus. Those are the things that you have to try to overcome or excise from your consciousness. And it could be something as easy as going to bed a little earlier so you can get quality sleep, or just letting go of the things that you can't actually control, in terms of like, okay, you're stressing out over this thing at work, or you're stressing out over this thing in your relationship. The stress itself isn't going to solve a thing. It's okay to turn these things over in your mind, but you don't need to do it with stress. You're choosing to stress. Even under the worst circumstances, stress isn't helpful. Excuse me. Huh? Right? Let's take a relationship, for example. Personal relationship. Say you're married. What's the worst thing that could happen in the context of that relationship? Probably infidelity. That's probably the worst. If you're stressing over the fact that your partner might not be faithful, well, the stress isn't going to change that either way. And stress is more of a symptom of an underlying issue that it's already there. So you just start taking steps. Either have that conversation, or really there is no or. It could be, if it's a business relationship, and maybe say you have a sales partner or anybody that you actually have to kind of rely on for your success. If you feel they're not being completely honest or disloyal or whatever, the only remedy to any of this is open communication. Sustained effort towards open communication at all times. How about that? Let's tie it into the daily page. Sustained effort isn't only just concentration on a physical task. It could be concentration on mental communication. Cultivating that openness between two people that are in a partnership, whether it be personal or business. You have to have a sustained amount of effort to maintain that. I'm gonna go. So there's that. Let me see what else. Okay, going to work with the dogs today. So dogs are just like people, a bunch of different personalities, you know, a bunch of different moods and attitudes. So you never know what you're gonna get when you're walking into when you're walking into a job where you work with animals, especially animals in a group or a pack. You know, one of them might not be feeling well. It might just be a bit more, you know, under the weather to the point where they'll snap at another dog. You can't get lax in an environment like that. You can't be on your phone, can't be thinking of other things. You have to be 100% dialed in. Sustained effort when it comes to the amount of focus you put into the pack dynamic, the energy that they're putting out. You have to catch on to all that. Oh man, this dog's normally playful. He's not really, he's kind of lethargic today. Okay, I gotta keep an eye on that, because if somebody tries to play with him and he's not feeling it, he might snap. Other dog snaps back. Now we gotta fight. So if I don't keep up a high level of sustained focus and put that effort into catching the cues, someone could get hurt. Dog could get hurt. I could get hurt. That's not a good thing, right? Let's put it in the context of self-mastery and trying to improve who you are as a person, you know, emotionally, spiritually, cognitively. It doesn't help with the phones and all the distractions and the Netflix series and all the different things, the sports. All these things are tools to try to chip away at your sustained effort at concentrating on the task at hand, which is building you. So maybe try for a day to put the technology away, if you can. You know, read a book. Pick one day to have all the information that comes into your mind. Make it physical to the point where you have to hold a book, turn a page, maybe even read out loud. It can only help. Right? There's no level of harm that could do. Sustained effort, continuous, without cease. I think that's how you say it. Sustained, like sustainability. It's continuous, without break. Trying to churn up thoughts to talking to the camera about today. Especially because the page that I read is like, oh man, I already touched base on this. I was ahead of my book in my mind. Let me see, what could this churn up for the next page? Sustained effort. Right? Sustained effort. That helps you move. Okay, so once you start mastering the skill because of your sustained effort, that's what gets you into the flow state. I think that's what that's called. The flow state where now that, let's just say it's a task. Let's just say it's physical ability, like a sport. You get into this mental zone where you're not even thinking about what you're doing. I've kind of been there when it's come to certain things. You're not thinking about what you're doing. And it actually allows your mind to kind of take a step back and actually watch what you're doing. You kind of become an active observer of what it is that you're doing. So now you get to start to analyze how you're doing it. And this is the creative aspect of the flow state. Because now your mind has created a little bit of space between the activity itself that you're performing and the analysis of what it is that you're doing. Because during the learning phase, your mind is completely focused in on the task, and there's no room for analysis because you're still learning the task itself, right? You're still making these little mistakes, or you know, you're having to slow down and go so slow that you can't think of anything else but the actual movement of, say, like at work on manufacturing facilities. Maybe the if you're under a microscope maybe the hand tool you're using, the technique that you've been taught. You're still trying to perfect these things. But once it becomes second nature and the perfection's been attained, I think if I look this up, I hope I'm getting this right. You start to move into the flow state where you're actually observing yourself doing the task at a proficient level. Like, I think I've entered moments of this when it's come to breaking up dogfights. It's like I'm watching myself do it. It's weird. Like, the first time it happened, I didn't even think, so I don't even know what happened. I just kind of jumped in and started to separate dogs. But by the time it was done, it was, what just happened? But now when it comes to like the dogs, it's like I'm watching myself do things. It's weird. It's almost like you're up in a balcony mentally and you're watching yourself down below do. It's an odd sensation mentally. It's cold this morning. Just trying to fill up this time talking. Not a whole lot of creative or interesting thoughts. Probably going over a bunch of stuff I already talked about. Really, I'm just, again, practicing my rant muscle. Trying to get to the point where all these thoughts and ideas just flow smoothly from my mind and into the ears of those who might be able to listen or want to listen. That's interesting. I just passed the little grocery store over here off of Parkway, Calabasas that I didn't work at this specific one, but I worked for the company. And they have a Logix. It's a bank right next to it. And that's funny because another location that this store opened up at in Woodland Hills has a Logix right next to it also. That's two. I see a pattern. Passing this Mercedes-Benz of Calabasas. I helped when I drove a truck. I didn't know what this place was or what they were going to build because it was just a blank lot. But I delivered dirt to that lot. Actually, both of these. Actually, all these car dealerships out here before they were built. I was part of the team that helped excavate and level the lot. It's funny with how that works when you see what you've become a part of in terms of development. That's what it must be, how it must feel for teachers and masters who actually help develop people, to see later what they've turned into, or if they've turned into anything at all. Some students, even though they might seem like the best, I would imagine there are students that fall by the wayside. Either they just learn or they lose the passion for whatever the skill or ability that they were into was, or if they took it by the reins and really excelled, you know. I'm sure every teacher or master is aware of that. Not everybody's going to stay on the road. You know, life gets in the way. For some, they can't sustain that focus. There, was be able to tie it in to my daily page. Concentrated and sustained focus. If you lose it, that's it. You can get it back. You can rekindle that fire, but I would imagine a lot of the times once it's gone, I think it's just gone. Like for me, I used to like to make music. I think I had a certain level of proficiency when it came to making music. But after I wiped my mind out, that's really what destroyed that. I went back to trying to do it. Zero interest. And I remember loving it. That's the weird part. I remember sitting in front of my computer for hours. I was alone, you know. I was married at the time. That person was at work. My kids were at school. So I was just kind of home waiting to have to go to work, which was later in the day. I had the whole morning to, you know, clean the house real quick, make sure everything's nice and tidy, and then I just sit on that computer and make music all day. Well, all morning, at least. And absolutely loving it. The time would just fly. I was so into it. And I remember trying to go back to it, having zero connection to it anymore. Like wow, that's very interesting how the mind can just flip, switch on a dime, just flip like that. So I let that go. I don't think I would like that now. It's too sedentary a task. You just sitting there in front of a computer. I like being active and moving. Even at my job at the manufacturing plant, let's call it that. I don't want to say names of companies. But even that job, you know, I'm testing these devices. But I don't like just sitting there in a chair. You know, I have a person I work with. He sits. I don't like just even watching him sit. Like, I don't like that. So I always stand. I'm always bouncing up and down on my toes. And luckily, I work 2 different stations, so at least I have to walk, you know, maybe the distance of about 10 feet apart from each other. Those test stations. You know, I'm bouncing back and forth from station to station. And a lot of times if I don't have a podcast going, which I haven't really been into lately, I'll have my music going. And I try to keep it upbeat, so I listen to a lot of EDM. So it keeps the pace of my mind and my body moving. I think I would go absolutely nuts if I had an office job where I had to sit. I can't do that. I gotta be active. I gotta be moving. That's why I like working with the dogs. And there's people that work here with me at the dog job. They just sit on their phone in the yard. They sit on the play equipment, just checking out their phone. And right away, in my mind, the first thing I see is if a fight breaks out, you are already a step behind. You are several steps behind. First, you're sitting. Right? So if a fight breaks out, instead of actually making your first step as a movement towards the fight, first thing you have to do is stand up first. Right? That's all. You're already losing seconds with that. And then you have to start moving towards wherever the scuffle's taking place. So that's why, like, when I'm in the pack, I'm constantly moving. I'm not even just standing. It's not that I don't sit and I stand. I'm moving. I'm walking in a circle around the dogs. Actually, I get the dogs to follow me in a big circle in the room. They end up following me in a big circle, which I think is funny. And then I'll take them outside because there's an outside area. Take them out the door. They all follow me outside. And I tell them, all right, let's go back in. And we go back into the yard. Into the inside area. We start walking around again. I figure if I keep them focused on me, they have less focus on each other, which means there's less chances that focus on each other will turn into some sort of fight. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And whatever steps I can take to help diminish that possibility, I take those steps. Literally, constantly stepping, moving, doing. But I look, because there's the small yard and the big yard right next to each other, so I can see over into the other yard. People drive like fucking shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. But yeah, I see everybody on their phones. Right? Several steps behind if a fight breaks out. First you gotta do is you gotta look. Where's the fight taking place? Then you gotta get up. And then you gotta start moving towards the issue. By the time you're doing that, I'm already in the middle of the fight breaking it up. Because I was watching and seeing it coming. Sorry. Where is this van going? Wow. Terrible drivers. Not all of you, but there's a large percentage of you that are just terrible at driving. It's another thing. Another thing I could confidently talk smack about. And I'll do it. Alright, I'm almost there. Another safe journey to my destination. That's about it. That's all I have to say about that. So, to wrap this one up, everybody stay focused. Try to narrow the amount of mental chatter that's going on, you know. People that are learning. Oh, there's little rabbits in the parking lot. That's the cutest darn thing. That's adorable. I don't want to scare them. So yeah, try to focus on all the things that require the task you are partaking in. Make sure that whatever you're doing, that the movement's fluid. You know, just slow and steady wins the race. I say it all the time. Okay, let's go to work.